Ready. Okay. Hey, family, welcome to another episode of Transformed and Renewed Listening. I am excited that you are joining us this evening, and we have a great episode. I like to always keep it fresh with you. So, hopefully, as we get into it, you really enjoy this episode. But before we get down to business, if this is your first time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your screen. And also be sure to comment because I like to get feedback and I also like to know what you're thinking in terms of the topics and just trying to get a pulse temperature of how you like the things that we're doing here at Robotics. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your screen. And if you are returning, welcome back, family. You already know what to do. If you have not hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you do so. So that way you do not forget, you do not miss out on the latest updates that we have. So let's get down to business. So you're probably wondering why I shared why I don't do yoga. And before we get into it, I always like to explain the meaning of things because I think sometimes we can use words but not really understand what the meaning is. And so I want to do my due diligence with you because you may have heard the term yoga but not really understanding what does it really mean. And so at least from just research because that's what I got to do. I got to do some research. But coming across different, I guess, resources and the definitions that they have for yoga, pretty much what I took away from it, but also what some of the definitions mentioned is that yoga is a spiritual practice, or it has derived from in Indian spiritual practices. Some believe it has taken elements of Hinduism explicitly. Some believe that it's just a practice that incorporates mental, physical, as well as spiritual tactics. Now, we'll get into that a little bit, but at least when I kind of look at and I think about yoga and just to back up, that is pretty much when I did research, that is what yoga is defined as: mental, physical, spiritual practices that allows a person to be in unity with the universe. Okay. That's pretty much a simple or just a summed up definition. Go to different or other sites, websites, or organizations or people who practice yoga, or they call them yoga or yogi, so to speak. They'll probably tell you something similar, but that is pretty much the basis of what yoga means. Now, there is more to it, but I will say that at least in the States, the US, I've seen where there is different types of yoga. Um, and to be honest, I've never been a fan of yoga. Again, I'll go more in depth shortly. But again, different types of yoga I've seen, whether it's pets, so people using their dogs while they're doing yoga, goat yoga, llama yoga. I really don't understand what some of this is, but well, I can tell you what it is, but I'll also go into what a lot of it goes into. So this is at least went to a website that pretty much talks about it because I like to understand. Okay, what do the yogis who practice yoga, if I'm saying that correctly, what do they view this definition of? Because a lot of times people can tell you more about something. And that kind of helps me to build a better argument when people give me the actual definition. And it just helps to prove a point. So, going into this, and I'll actually share this shortly, but I did want to read it. But it says that the word yoga literally means union. Okay. Union. So, we want to hold on to that. And then it talks about how oh yeah, this was one that stuck out to me. It says the religions of the world. You know what? Matter of fact, let's read this together. So that way You know that I'm not making this up. Let's see if that is okay. Okay. Let's get into it. All right. So if you see two screens, one is my camera, so don't look at that. But so looking so as I talked about it, it says yoga literally means union. Okay. So that way, again, I want you to hold on to that. And so as you read this next paragraph, it's kind of interesting the example that is used. And so I kind of make a point about these, but I just want you to see this and then we'll kind of get into the why is it wrong or why for me how I have my own, stance on it. And so I think this example it talks about trees like as you are inhaling, trees are inhaling as you're exhaling, trees exhaling. So the idea is that you are the same as nature. Okay. You being a living human being, you are the same as a tree, or you are the same as grass that grows. Again, you can hold on to that, pencil it, bookmark it, because at least for me, I can't say I'm the smartest person in the world, but when I hear certain things, certain flashes pop up in terms of hold on, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay. So going down here, and this is, at least for me, when it talks about God or in religion, my ears are always tuned up, especially when it has to do with worship. It has to do with um, uniting yourself with something else. I'm always just aware, but at least here this part says the religions of the world have been saying for a long time that God is everywhere. Look at this next statement. It says, whether you say God is everywhere, okay, or you say everyone is one energy, we are talking about the same reality, okay? So whether you say that God is everywhere or you say that everything is one energy, we are all talking about the same thing. And so that to me, like I said, there are different statements as you read this, and to me, I actually do I like it, but I really don't like it. I like it in the sense that the information is here, that it's not trying to be covered up. It's just explicitly. Now there is a lot more that is not shared here, but I also can't say that I like it in terms of people who may ask me, or even different people who would say, well, why are you just being so critical or just bashful? And to me, sometimes when I hear that, it makes me wonder why people have a defense mechanism up for something that unfortunately they have not done the research or even understood more about. For me, I'm the type of person, why should I protect something, especially when I haven't done the research? So let me really understand what's going on so I can make a better decision. But this is just, again, one of the few statements. Of course, as you go on, you'll start to see different things. For a person who, again, does not have a relationship with Christ, um, may not think too much of it. However, you can still have another person who may not have a relationship, but some things just kind of go off in terms of what they really know to be true. And so, a lot of times when it comes to this stance of yoga, one thing that I'll address is, you know, the as it talks about how the word literally means union. Another way that comes to mind, or another phrase that comes to mind, is to be yoked with something. And I think another definition actually defined yoga as being yoked. And pull up some scriptures here because I know that this pretty much gets into the realm of the Bible. And I just like to be honest with you. I like for us to really learn and understand this information because, again, for me, I can't say I'm a person that likes to try everything, especially if everyone is doing it. Okay, everyone could be, you know, everyone could be cheating. Should I cheat? No. Everyone could be, just, forging numbers or just, putting numbers down, especially when it comes to taxes. Am I going to do the same thing? No. So it's kind of one of those where we have to really think for ourselves in terms of not just going with the flow, but really questioning, okay, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? And so that is at least how I approach something. Let's pull up this because I also want to yoke, 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 yoke. So let's see. Just want to pull up this scripture real quick. Let's see. Let me 1 second, dude. All right, so I'm not getting the actual. It's taking a minute for me, but anyway. So this part about being to joined together as a union, that part to me, it kind of just strikes me because certain words you don't really think about, but at least as I read the Bible and I see other words being used in different places, it makes me wonder, you had to go somewhere with that. So at least in this, let's see, excuse me. Okay, yeah, here we go. So let's pull this up. Let's see. All right. So here, uh-oh. Okay. So here it says in first or second Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14, it says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness, and what communion has light with darkness, and what accord has Christ with Belial, or what part has a believer with an unbeliever? So this pretty much talks about a lot. And when we think about, again, going back to the instance of yoga being known as a union, for many people, even those who are teachers of yoga, one thing they don't realize is you have this, again, you have this notion where I can pretty much do yoga. I can get in the stances. I can do the different poses. One is pretty much why I think about it as like a pyramid where you have both your hands together, they're above your head, and you have one leg that you're standing on, and then the other leg is pretty much kind of at an angle. And so you're standing in that pose. Why am I standing in that pose? Well, at least from, again, some research and even reading about is that, and again, on some of the sites that I do see the information, they won't tell you, but you're essentially worshiping goddesses. Okay. So you could be worshiping a fire goddess, you can be worshiping a fertility goddess, you could be worshiping a god of water or a god of just sex. And so it's different gods that could be worshiped by the poses. And in essence, the so-called gods or goddesses are essentially demons or demonic spiritual forces. And a lot of times people do not realize that. And so if you ever wonder why do you make certain faces or contort your body in a certain position, it's because you're pretty much worshiping. And when we think about this, it gives a distinction, at least in this chapter. It says, do not be unequally yoked. Okay. So that's number one. So to do yoga, you should ask the question, am I doing something that's going to be unequally yoked? Is there a practice to this? You know, what makes this so special? Questions like that. Fellowship, righteousness with lawlessness, essentially wickedness. If I'm trying to do right, why am I trying to, fellowship with someone that's evil? It's just clearly evil. They don't have any intention to do right. The same thing with Christ and Belial. Obviously, Christ is righteous, Belial is wicked or just a false god. And so that is one thing I would say when I think about yoga, and I know that there are different articles, different people who say, it's good for health, whatnot. I just don't do it regardless at all. If there is an issue with the spiritual context, why would I even still do it, even if it can do something for my health? At the end of the day, let's say it could help me to live to 90. I'm not going to do that. That is no different than somebody offering somebody who's wicked and saying, hey, if you take this money, you'll be protected, but you can't proclaim God, or, you have to serve me, you have to worship me. So it's kind of like I want to do yoga because it does this benefit for me, even though there is this spiritual connection that is clearly told. And even you can even go on to YouTube and other social media platforms, but there are actually videos, testimonials, interviews with people who once practiced yoga or was involved in it, pretty much telling stories about how it is very demonic and how there are just a lot of unknown dangers about it that most people don't even know. And these are actually people who live in, I want to say, India, where yoga is obviously more prominent in those areas, but at least in the states, it has pretty much just been growing. But it is also one of those practices that does not really get, I guess, ridiculed as much because of the context that we're dealing with. Some people say, well, you can be a Christian and you can do yoga. At least to me, I beg to disagree. Just be based on the information that I see. And at least for me, it's just clear as day. Like, why would I do something, especially when it'd be one thing if, hey, we're still trying to get a verdict, trying to understand information about it. But many people, and I mean many people, have actually shared stories about, yep, this is just a evil practice. And what you're doing is you are pretty much soliciting evil spirits from just different places. I want to try to see if I can play this interview because it was actually interesting. Let's see. Let's see if I can share this. So I wanted to share this tab. Let's see if it will let me do so. Grab. Yeah. Let me let's share this. All right, there we go. So yeah, this was a woman gave her life to Christ, and she's pretty much explaining the truth about yoga. So hopefully you can hear this audio.
Yeah, yoga is kind of a meditation. You sit in a certain posture to invite certain spirit realm. You think you are just exercising your body, but it's actually the tantra to go with it. Certain hand gestures mean certain goddess, like fire god or water god or whatever god they are inviting in. Many yoga classes, they ask you to make certain faces. Those faces really represent those goddesses. You are really entertaining the Hindu goddesses. Another thing, the word meditation I mentioned, yoga teaches you to meditate and empty yourself, less empty yourself, less empty yourself. The whole idea of empty yourself is because the Hindu worshippers, they don't understand what demonic realm is. They are still in the darkness. You leave it empty for the demonic realm to walk into your life, and you don't even notice, and you end up getting sucked into so many different things. But meditation in Christ like life, if you would like to invite Jesus in your heart, then you meditate on his word. That means that you empty yourself, but you don't leave it empty. You straight away ask the Holy Spirit to move in your realm and recite the Bible verse you have thought about. For example, simple. Even if you say, Jesus, I trust in you in a time like that, he moves in and doesn't leave you empty. And that is.
Yeah, so wanted to just share that because again, that is uh, that was pretty much again a woman. I think her name was Brenda. Getting the name wrong, and that was from Yeshua Testimonies. But she was actually um, pretty much the first 7 minutes. This was probably the last 2 minutes or so, a little under 2 minutes, where she talked about yoga. But the first 7 minutes talked about her upbringing, just from early childhood all the way up to adulthood, in terms of what she believed in, her relationship with Christ. And then the last part talked about yoga. But you can clearly see that there is a lot that goes on behind it. And and again, at least for me, the demonic factor about it, and trust me, there are many more videos of people who were once yogi, or forget the word, the actual word, but who were actually teachers of it and who are now not teachers of it, who pretty much shared the truth about, okay, what it really is. And it pretty much is, again, where you're trying to unite your body to the universe, but essentially what you're doing is you're saying, I want to go outside of the realm of God in order to find this essentially utopia. Okay. And nobody ever likes to use that word, but it's usually just, I guess, masked by so many other statements. But that is essentially what is going on. You're trying to be your own God, or you, because they literally tell you that if God is who he is, then you can also be God if we are everything. Okay. And that is just not true. That is just not true. And I'm one person who would say that's a lie. It's a lie. Okay. And so again, that's why I don't practice it. I just stick to basic exercises, stretching. Okay. Not worshiping a God, not contorting my body. If I am twisting my body, it's because I'm trying to get a muscle out, but I'm not trying to do any type of other poses based on any type of Sanskrit, or any asana positions, whatever they are called. I just choose not to get into something that, could cause me to be at a negative relationship with my Lord and Savior, who's done a lot for me. So that is at least why I don't do it. I can't tell you what to do. But again, that's me based on this information. So you let me know your thoughts, because I would love to learn more about, if you've ever had any experiences with yoga, even just with this information that I shared. Again, I would never encourage anyone to do yoga. You make that decision on your own, but I will say that as a believer, I strongly believe that we should abstain from it, because it's pretty much like we are trying to sit at a table with wickedness. We're entertaining this idea, but we're also trying to hold hands with God and say we all need to coexist. And that is just not true. Okay. So, again, let me know what you think. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you haven't, at the beginning, if you haven't, before you log off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your screen. That way you can stay up to date with what we're doing. Video content, yes, you can stay up to date with just by hitting that like and subscribe button. Listen, I thank you for joining us. Make sure you tune in next time where we'll give you another great episode. Until next time, hope that you enjoy your day, and I'll talk with you later.